alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Alive After Reading. I'm your host, Tim Niederreiter, and with me today is a long-lost returning guest to this podcast, John Adamus. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, because the audience has actually grown a little bit since you were last here.
Well, first of all, congratulations on growing your audience. That's always an accomplishment. Hi, I'm John. I'm a writing coach and editor. I help people tell their stories. Any story, any person, anywhere, anywhen, anyhow, I can help you make your creative thing into a real thing.
Excellent. Yes, and a lot of people do need help with that. I mean, I wish honestly, I have a writing coach in my own life, but I came supplied with one, you might say, because it's my twin brother.
Well, that's good.
That I talk to a lot about this sort of thing. And mostly it's a tough love thing with him. He is harsh sometimes, but it's always good to hear from him.
Well, there is a value to occasional harshness when you're trying to get something creative across from one person's brain space to another.
Exactly. And in my case, it's like, I'm the kind of... I don't want to say I'm the inferior twin, but sometimes it feels that way, right? Like, I'm the one who's... I don't know if you've ever played Metal Gear Solid. Ever heard of that game?
Sure, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, because in that game, the main character, the player character, is Solid Snake, and he's like the bad clone. He's like the clone with all the bad DNA. And then there's Liquid Snake, who has all the good DNA. And sometimes I feel like I'm definitely Solid Snake of those two. Anyway.
Yeah, but think about the joy you get to experience climbing with cardboard boxes.
Yes, I do get to play a lot with cardboard. I'm like a cat. I just get to hide in the cardboard box. It's great.
That makes up for loads of bad writing. Hey, it's a box. I will hide in it.
and boy, do those games have a lot of writing. I'm not going to go so far as to say good or bad, but they have a lot of it.
There is some writing happening there. Yes.
Yes, there's a kind of more than I'd expected when I tried to play them the first time. Anyway, so John, you also have a background in RPGs. Is that true?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I started out, my first writing and editing experiences, way decades ago, was as first a playtester for role-playing games, and then a really concerned fan edit, I guess you would call. Like, it was unofficial. I was not paid. I was not credited. But I said, hey, I can help make your book less garbagey. And the guy I worked with was like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. And then I did that for a while, and then without pay and without a contract and without any of the things I tell people all the time they should be doing, I just thought, I'll deal with that stuff later. And then the guy fell off the face of the earth, and the project, it's available, it's out there in the world, but I do not recommend anyone do anything in, around, and near it. It's a great punchline at best. And then years later, I got into more serious, more contracted, or I guess contractual, actual work with actual role-playing game companies and actual publishers for, paychecks and stuff. And it's really a substantial difference between when you're just sort of doing it kind of on the fly secretly in somebody's living room versus when you're like, doing a job. But I started doing that. Yeah. I started doing that, and it very quickly snowballed. One company, hey, we're moving from this project to that project, come with us. And then that happened over and over, and then after a while you realize that you have like a rather full resume, and then all of a sudden it's, oh, wow, those things I made won awards. That's neat. And then people look at that and go, hey, you won awards. Do you want to come over here and work on these things? And I did that for about a decade until I just needed more money to live on because groceries. And I wanted to stop mooching. I wanted to stop mooching off of other people, and I wanted to be able to have like an actual job that I was proud of, because I was embarrassed, frankly, telling everybody that I'm the guy who fixes the typos in the books. So That's where I started to sort of branch out and get out of gaming so that, other people could really do their thing without me hovering. And then that's where I started picking up more novel clients and more coaching clients and more non-gaming stuff. But every once in a while, I dip my toe somewhere into some sort of like part of the pool, I guess, for gaming, where somebody comes to me and goes, "Hey, remember we worked together like 13 years ago?" No, I say, because 13 years is kind of fuzzy for me.
No, it's a long time.
But hey, you worked on this book. Do you want to like come back and do something? Sure, because I'm that easy sometimes. So yeah, I still dabble, I would say, but for the most part, I'm built on a foundation of gaming, as opposed to a current gaming editor. Although if you have a game out there, I'm more than happy to work with you and talk to you about it and everything. It's just that they are no longer the, oh my god, I must work on games in order to pay my bills that they used to be.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I'm kind of doing a little tiny indie game for kids right now. But that should be kept under wraps. I should not say more about that because I've been hired to do it and I'm proud of it. I'm excited about it, but it's not done yet. So I'm not going to go any further into talk about that. Though it might facilitate the return of my other podcast, which is kind of interesting. Because COVID brought on a time I could actually run role-playing games again, which was kind of crazy. Just online, of course. Yeah.
I've been thinking about sort of the benefits of COVID. Not the disease. The disease has no benefits. It's monstrous. Please get vaccinated.
Absolutely, yeah.
But just the changes we've had to make collectively to how we do things. Now this is going to sound terrible, but I'm somebody who very rarely leaves the house. So I was not terribly physically inconvenienced with this lack of commute, because my commute has always been measured in like distance from the bedroom or kitchen to the office. And it's in feet, right? So I'm not exactly a hardship case. But because people are home more and because we're using more, interactive media and we're having more meetings, we're talking into more microphones, and my job primarily has been talking into microphones forever. The pandemic era, I guess we could call it, has just been far more exciting for me in terms of like, oh, I can reach more people, not necessarily successfully, but I was able to kind of say, well, this is a great time for me to go plug this microphone in and just start yapping at people. And I'll record this and I'll stream this and I'll do that. I don't think I would have had the incentive had it been sort of business as usual, where it would have been, oh, well, other people do that way better. Who's going to listen to me? Like, I'm just one more guy who does this thing. And whatever, I can find other ways to spend my time. I don't know, get into woodworking, because that's what I was thinking about getting into pre-pandemic. And instead, I doubled down and got more microphones and cables and plugs and monitors and headphones and turned it into like a creative... Somebody earlier today called it sort of a wild Rube Goldberg machine of writing advice, which I really like. Somehow, some way, it'll turn into a T-shirt, I'm sure. But it's just this idea of like, oh, the pandemic made everybody else really kind of cloister in, and it made me expand. Yet again, proving that I am regularly always just slightly outside the norm for one reason or another.
Just a little bit inverted, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's... And in some cases, it does work. I mean, like, I experienced something similar because I didn't like being trapped and not being able to go outside and write for most of the year.
Sure.
Because I usually write outside my house, but eventually finally got to me to clean the space that I can use as an office here, which is kind of interesting because I never write on the podcasting computer, because the podcasting computer is advanced and has the ability to play video games. So I always use a little laptop for that. Yeah.
Sure.
Because otherwise there's no video games at all can happen, because I'd have to have them uninstalled from both machines,
And that would just be a travesty. We should be clear about that to your audience. It would be a travesty.
Yeah, sometimes you've got to scare your pants off with Resident Evil 7 or something like that.
Well, no, let's not go that far. But,
no, I mean, I like Resident Evil 7.
I don't care for horror things.
it's an interesting game, but anyway, I bet of all the Resident Evil games, though, I bet you'd like 4 the best, and that's only if you like shooting things like weird monsters, because that's really not all. That one's not very scary.
I did play the first one way back. When the
4 is very
wonky, and I kept having to like turn. I remember doing a lot of like turning back into rooms I just left.
Oh no! They've come a long way since then.
Oh well, it really wouldn't be difficult to come farther than that.
No, I mean, because even when the only Resident Evil game I played all the way through at this point is 4, and that one is basically a cheesy '80s movie. It isn't a horror story.
I do love a good cheesy '80s horror.
And it is. I mean, there's some scary stuff in it. Obviously, some monsters and stuff, but they're not like that scary in the sense that there's no jump scares really. You shoot them in the face. They show up. You shoot them in the face. That's what you do. Because that's the kind of game it is. But 7 is much more of a horror game, and I'm actually excited to play that because it's more my speed. But it's, and that one's first person, which is that's the part that's got me like I was nervous about doing that for a long time.
I'm so glad
it's too scary.
That brings you joy.
Oh yeah, but actually first person horror is kind of my genre when it comes to video games. But that's probably enough about that because I played Fear, which was a first person shooter that had some weird. Kind of, what is it, like The Grudge or The Ring? Kind of elements to it.
Yeah.
It was like The Matrix meets The Ring.
No, I'm out.
Very weird game.
I'll tell you just on premise alone, I'm out.
It was on the early. It was like I think it was a PC game when the Xbox 360 came out, so it's pretty old.
Okay.
But by this point, by game standards. But that was a very scary game. I'll hand it to that one.
Yeah, I'll just leave that right over there, off to the side.
Even though it also has an army of clones in it, which I found amusing.
It can have an army of loads of things.
Yeah, it had army. There were other armies in it. Yes.
I am on record in loads of places as being as close to anti-horror as possible. It's
okay, well, that's good to know.
Thing.
So not to poke the bear here.
You can poke the bear. Go ahead.
I'm going to poke the bear then. So John, what would you define it as horror? If you're, this is actually I consider this more of like a Hellraiser scenario. I liked Hellraiser too. I guess I'm a horror fan now. Okay. I write fantasy though. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And I had like a Portal fantasy story. Which involved going through a bunch of different worlds, and in one of these worlds, there was like a giant city floating in the air. This was like the penultimate place they went to in this book. Sure. It is currently not published. It's getting republished soon, hopefully. Okay. Once they finish re-editing it. There were some problems with the original version.
Understood.
But there was one of my favorite parts, and one of the parts that readers tended to like the best of this book, was when our heroes they're climbing through this big kind of flying city, but they start off on the bottom. We're like think like Cloud City. They start off basically in this in these little village that's been built on the bottom of the Star Wars Cloud City type thing.
Okay.
And then they have to go up through the waste chutes to get to the top. And they're climbing through there, and they find that because this is a fantasy book, they find that there's something else living there. Of course
there is.
And it's scary because it's this immortal thing that's probably way more powerful than anything else you've seen in the book, which is kind of weird, but.
Sure.
It's this and it's one of those like immortal as in indestructible kind of enemies, and it's basically everywhere at once. It's one of those horrific things, and so it's actually like I said, it does remind me now of Hellraiser, though I hadn't seen Hellraiser at the time.
Well, aren't you lucky?
Well, I wasn't. I have seen it now. I like that.
I'm glad you liked it.
I'm sorry.
I'm on the record.
I had a question in here, though. Yeah, but is it possible for a book that isn't really that scary to be too scary for you, though? Is that something that happens to you sometimes?
For me personally, yes.
Okay.
I am told by a variety of therapists that it stems from just being incredibly high-strung and having such incredible anxiety that it does not take much for my sort of escapist enjoyment material to push a little bit too far and disturb me. So here is literally an example that happened yesterday. I started watching this thing on Netflix and it is not itself horror. There's no horror element. It is just a straightforward kind of tense psychological murder mystery whodunit kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by all accounts, in any other context, would totally be my jam. I'd be all over it.
Okay.
But I'm sitting here watching this thing, and it's 8 hours. So, okay, I'm going to watch it in pieces. Because I thought it was just going to be like 1 2-hour thing, whatever. It's 8 hours. I'm watching it. The first hour is intriguing. But I can't put my finger on what it is that I really like. It's just there's something to it that's held my interest for 49 minutes. Let me go try the second episode. I tried the second episode, and the same unknown thing is there. But then all of a sudden, there's the reveal of the dead body, who you know is dead because they told you he was dead before. So I knew this was coming. I knew it was coming. And then that was it. I immediately noped out right away. Oh, nope, that's what we're doing with the body. That's the angle we're going for. The other downside is having read enough stories and taken enough things apart, I know the blueprints. I know how sausage gets made in this case. So if you're going to have this kind of experience and this kind of impact for your reader, you're probably doing this, and this. A, B, and C things.
You're building up to something worse, probably, in other words.
Correct. So if I know it's coming, nope, I have to watch this stupid remaining 6 hours of television either during a bright sunny day where I can have the blinds open and hold a cat, because otherwise I'm just going to be either irritated to the point of irrational anger or just anxious the rest of the day. Because I am, and I believe the technical medical term is, a giant wuss. Because things that are shocking, jump-scary, horror, but not gory I can laugh at because it's just special effects. But the really intensely pushed emotions, those things kind of hang on me like eggs stuck to a bad breakfast pan. Like, that stuff sticks with me forever. So, something like Hellraiser, the first one.
Yeah. That's the only one I've seen.
But, it's okay. And I have to contextualize in terms of like, well, I'll have lights on, I'll have a root beer with me, I will immediately transition from that to something else, so it'll be fine. But then when I watch, say, I don't know, Hellraiser 2, and it is a bucket of flaming garbage, and I demand the universe bring me my moments back and give me the ability to go spend my day other ways, I'm just angry about it. Just fumingly, disgustingly angry, because I don't like being scared. Yeah. If I know it's coming, I can prep for it. I can gird whatever psychological loin needs girding, and I can make it work. But when I don't know the damn thing is coming, when I have no idea whatsoever, and it still hits me, nope, I immediately go to, how dare you, piece of media? How just no, like a dog with a rolled up newspaper. Just no, sit in the corner, think about what you've done. And the more that happens over the course of a story, the angrier I get. And that leads to, for some people, great amusement at my outrage.
Okay, I'm sorry if I've become one of those people, but I mean, no, seriously though, you do sound a lot like me in some regards. It's just that I have a different trigger, and it actually is gore for me. It's like a kind of more realistic gore, like hyper-violence, like anime gore. I can handle that kind of thing. Animated stuff is no problem. But then, like, yeah, but it's the darkish stuff that really gets to me. Like the Punisher series on Netflix really got me there.
Okay.
At just a few moments in that series.
Sure. No, absolutely.
I was like, I can't do that. I mean, literally almost passed out watching the.
Yeah, I completely understand that.
The one scene, and then I watched the last episode with the monitor turned off.
Yeah.
At various parts because it was so gross.
Yeah, just the audio track alone is usually enough.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But then the other one I was thinking was like No Country for Old Men.
Yeah,
which isn't actually very gory for the most part. The most gory part is actually when the bad guy's hurt, and that's the part that almost got me. Yeah, it's a very intense movie, but I don't mind the intensity. I like that part. I didn't like the gore. Yeah,
I've turned the pandemic, because when I was much younger, I'd go in for this all day. Oh my God, I couldn't wait for just bring me different loads of media to consume at the story buffet. And now that I'm older, and I don't know if it's just because I don't have the money to spend on a million different pieces of input, or whether I'm just more selective in terms of what I put my attention to. I don't care for it, and I'm very quick to kind of look at a thing and go, no, I want no part of this. I'm done. I'm walking away. I don't care if it's undone or unfinished. And that bugs people, especially people on my Patreon, get real cranky about the fact that I'm like, oh, John, you got to check this out. It's got 11 things in it. I'm not dedicating 11. Like, you have 30 minutes to hold my attention. If you can hook me there, I'll ride with you till the end. But if you don't, nope, I'm a tough sell. Mainly because I'm a wuss and I don't want to be bothered.
That makes so much sense. I mean, like, for me, to go back to the more bookish thing rather than all these movies and other examples, but like for me, I've realized that there's some things about books and they're not content things. They're actually writing style things because that's the kind of nerd I am.
Yep.
Usually that's the sort of thing that'll make me put a book down and never want to read it again. It's like, if the book bores me, but it's very similar to what you were saying. If the book is like boring me on an intrinsic, this writing is boring.
Yeah.
Which is actually it's not that common. Most writing, like a book can be kind of mediocre or badly written, and it can still be interesting to read.
Right.
But a book that's just genuinely vapid, at least even in a moment, and is otherwise good, can really derail me.
Yes.
And I felt like that's what I got. There was a pretty well-respected traditional book that I'm not going to name names because that's not how we do it things. But traditionally published, well-respected, big series, right in my alley, genre book, and I just couldn't get through it. Even though mostly I liked it, but there was fairly large gaps where I'm like, this is basically, why am I reading this? And I couldn't.
That is probably the number 2 problem I encounter with clients. If the first problem is genuinely a sense of, how do I tie all these pieces together? My story is going in directions to streamline it and organize it into one. If that's the big first thing, the second thing is it's written okay, like it is technically correct, the best kind of correct.
Yes,
technically
the best
correct, but not exactly enjoyably correct. Like you did it. You wrote words and they are in order and they are without substantial flaw. Good for you. But you have failed to tell the story in an engaging way.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, that's where the wrinkle comes in, because all of a sudden, one of the ways you make a story engaging is you have to break some of those rules that you tried really hard to follow in the act of writing.
Mm-hmm.
You got to let your grammar get a little soft. You got to use some fragments. You got to break up your big giant sentences and your big giant paragraphs, and no one cares about your semicolon.
Yeah, or I do care about semicolons. I want to get rid of them, but that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm a bad person, but I can't stand a semicolon.
It does not make you a bad person, but they should be used sparingly, very sparingly.
Yes. Yeah, okay, I can agree with that. We can allow a couple semicolons a book, maybe, depending on how long it is. Maybe one.
Yeah, if we're gonna wholesale like red line out stuff, I just want to nuke the multiple exclamation points per book.
Yes.
We can just get rid of, just toss those. We don't know.
I would. Yeah.
I tell so here we will peek behind the production curtain. I limit clients to no more than 2 per manuscript until they can learn how to use them correctly. Like, just sort of like you do with any kid and a fun new toy. You don't screw around with it. You can use more of them, but for now, you just get 2 in the whole book, because chances are the thing you're trying to get across, you can get across more impactfully and better and easier, rather than just leaning on the shift number 1 key over and over.
Oh yeah.
Multiple exclamation points does not make the thing you're exclaiming more exclamatory. It's
even in Interrobang makes more sense than multiple exclamation points most of the time. That's the exclamation point question mark for people.
I would really be okay with it if people were like, "Hey, I'm using an Interrobang."
If it made sense, it could be good. It would be good.
If it fits, let's do it.
Like, if you just say "what!" exclamation point question mark, that's actually better than just "what" one or the other, if that's what you mean.
Right. I mean, ideally, I would like a little bit more than just the dialogue itself. But hey, if we're
well, I mean, you'd want a tag with that usually, or a sentence to go with it.
No, I would not. No, you don't want to tag with an interrobang.
Not a tag, but a sentence that supports what the character.
Yeah, you want some
why
support.
the character's exclaiming like that.
Because otherwise, you're just kind of hovering in the "how do I read this" space.
But that would go in the tag position. That's why I got confused for a second there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Or possibly right beforehand. Anyway, that's the kind of thing that is maybe too micro, but it's also one of the, for listeners. But if you can picture a line of dialogue, actually, this is kind of helpful for me because I had to learn to do this because I've dictated for 2 years more or less. I dictated my books without looking at anything, without looking at a screen or notes while doing so. I had to say period or whatever, not semicolon. Oh God, I never said that. Got to say, this is the first time I've said it in maybe 5 years. But no, I've never said that while dictating. But I would say period, exclamation point, question mark, etc. That sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that really helped me. And eventually, and now I can see the line that's going to appear even before I write it. And I think that's really helped speed up my typing. Now that I'm back to doing that. But it also really sped up my editing because I got so into the guts of stories when I was editing dictation because it was such a garbage way for me to, at least when I did it, it resulted in a completely insane manuscript that was like translating a foreign tongue.
Sure, I can see that.
Yeah, it was written in English, but we don't know how or by who.
Yeah, I get that. No, the ability to visualize, and it's not just dialogue, although dialogue is, I think, the easier component there. But the ability to visualize a sentence in your head and then translate it to something on the page, that's the critical skill. Like, that's the thing you want to deal with first and foremost. That is the golden ticket, if we can use a Willy Wonka explanation.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can quote Futurama without referring to it, we can use Willy Wonka. It's all good.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's legit.
I mean, hey, there's nothing wrong with Futurama. I love Futurama.
You're wrong at all. I very much enjoy it.
Yeah.
The ability to visualize is paramount, and it's something that you can develop once you get used to doing it. But if you're not sure you're doing it, or you're not sure you're doing it well, the best way to sort of practice that is to just picture it in your brain, and then just write down flat what it is in your brain. I see it, there is a chair and there's a person sitting in the chair. Like, write it. We can always make another draft. Write it really poorly, I'm making air quotes, which is great for an audio recording, visually, and then go from there in terms of how to get that idea across. It makes such a substantial difference, though, once you get more comfortable in terms of like, oh, this is what I would expect this person to stand and move and say and do. And it does, over time, speed everything up.
Yes. Speed is also not the most important element when writing a book, obviously. It's more like, I would say quality, or getting your voice across, your vision across, is more important than doing it quickly. But once you can get your voice and vision across, doing it faster is pretty cool.
I mean, it's helpful for you. It gives you a chance to, have time in the rest of your day or week. But from a professional standpoint, from an industry standpoint, no one ever cares. No one ever cares. No one will even think to care about how long it took you to do this thing.
Yeah. Except me, but that's just because I'm a nerd.
Right,
who likes fast things.
Big giant companies with big giant buildings,
of course.
With big giant staffs or reduced staffs and outsourcing. They don't care if it took you 6 weeks or 6 days or 6 months or 6. It's not even a question. It's just, absolutely. Is it done? How much work does it need to get where we need it to go? Done. It doesn't matter. Can they do this? Do we trust them with this? Can we sell this thing once it's done? Everything else doesn't matter. But the internet, wonderful, never lies to you ever internet, will tell you that all this little peripheral stuff is super important.
Absolutely, but that's you just really hit on it though. It's like it's all that little shit, all that stuff out there. It's like that's the part that doesn't matter when it comes to writing a book. It's like just yeah. I mean, I think at risk of tooting my own horn here, telling the story the way you want to tell it, the story you want to tell the way you want to tell it. At least when you're coming to indie publishing, which is what I'm doing, and then telling it as best you can and making it as quality as you can. These are the only things that really matter when it comes to producing a book.
Traditional publishing. The only distinction we're making here is who's doing those post-writing steps.
That's true, yeah. I mean, because I get to decide when it's done is the only difference, yeah. Versus the publisher decides when it's ready, basically.
You still get to decide when you're done in traditional,
But they can also they can tell you no if they don't like it.
And they can also kick you in the tail if you're dragging along.
Yeah.
Or they can employ somebody like me to come lean on you.
Oh, so you're like a mafia guy now.
Well, I mean, every once in a while, I don't. It's been a while, and it's only in certain cases where someone comes along and goes, "This, it's been 6, 8, 9, 10 months since we've heard from this person. We need their book. Can you go talk to them and make this happen?" And hopefully, when I go talk to this person, hey, do you need help? They say yes, and then I can work with them and figure out what the heck's going on. But more often than not, when company X comes to me and goes, hey, can you tell our writer to go write? And I go to the writer and go, hey, what's up? They're like, go kick rocks, John. Beat it.
Yeah.
I'm doing my own thing. I'll handle it. And then I go home. Like, it's just, well,
yeah. So you're not like the what is it from Stranger Than Fiction? The one woman, the black woman from that, who's like there to help the crazy demented author finish her book.
I mean, I can do that. That's part of
similar kind of position, but it's not to that degree. You don't have to kind of. I mean, I'm here to push you around until you finish this damn book thing.
To pay me. Like you want to pay me for it? Sure, I'd be happy to. I will follow you around and hang out in your living room and eat your snacks and put my feet up on your furniture and change all the presets on your TV. I will do that happily. But more often than not, it's hey, this person needs help. We, the company, don't either know how to help them specifically or don't have the ability or time or interest in helping them want their project. Go find John. John will fix this. Put it on John. And then they come to me and go, hey, John, make this happen. And then I hopefully get a chance to do that.
Excellent. And actually, one of the other things you'll have a chance to do now is plug some of your other stuff that you do, because we've run out of time. And I'm sorry to say it, because it's been a lot of fun, but completely out of time.
All right. Loads of things to plug, so I will pare this down. Here's a thing I'm doing that I'm really super excited about. In fact, I'm so excited about it, I'm going to do it within 10 minutes after we finish recording this. I stream writing advice and writing lessons and workshops for free on Twitch now. You can go to twitch.tv/John Helps You Write Better. And Mondays and Wednesdays, sometimes more often than that, but usually Wednesdays, I just talk about things for hours. Character development, plot development, outlines. Every Wednesday, I answer writer questions about how to write things and how to get published and what's a contract look like, what about this and what about that, and people just bring questions up on the fly, and I for 2 hours. I love it. I love it so much. It's so much fun, and it is so helpful for me because it turns me into a better teacher. Because now I got to sit here and explain, like, okay, here's how you write an outline, and then when I go get someone who needs outline help, I have a better fluency in how to get these ideas across. Streaming for me, although I am totally not completely crushing it yet, bro, streaming for me has just been so much fun.
It sounds awesome. I'm gonna have to tune in some Monday, because I've been meaning to, because I've always got other plans on Wednesdays. But that sounds incredible. It also goes to YouTube. Oh, good point.
So it's always available on my YouTube channel. If you just search for my name, it's youtube.com/c/John Adamus.
Okay, good. That's gonna be helpful for me as well as other people. Sure. Yeah.
That's where you can find weeks of, except for the part where I went on vacation and the part where I'm moving the from one house to the other. That's where all the archive of the long stuff sits and lives.
All right. What else have you got for us? Is that most of what it is, or you got one other thing? That's
the newest, hottest thing. But if you're still looking for all my usual stuff, you can check me out on Twitter, twitter.com/awesome, AWESOME_ that's shift in the dash key, JOHN, awesome _ John. I'm on there all the time. You can always hit the website, writernextdoor.com, if you want to get help with your work or learn something about marketing or read a blog that is sorely in need of an update and a facelift, as well as take classes that also sorely need an update. But yeah, I'm always available somewhere.
Great. Is that everything then?
That is everything.
All right, great. Everything. Excellent, because it's been great having you on the show. Thank you so much.
I love coming here. This is fantastic.
Well, we're gonna have to do it again sooner this time than less of a big break, because I miss hanging out with John, and I think the audience is gonna especially because the audience is a lot of writers. They're gonna want to hear from you again soon. So let's have you back. Not in like a year and a half.
You just need to say, "Hey, do you have some time?" And I will find the time.
Well, I appreciate it. And as for this podcast, you can find more of us on mentalcellarpublications.com, especially if I remember to actually hit the podcast update button and name the right time of day. You'll be able to find the episodes there, 7:30 Central Time, every Sunday morning. And that's when the new episodes drop. And you can find my books on timneederwriter.com/books. That's the best place to find all the covers, and you can click the links and find the stuff in all the places you can get my books, of which there are an increasing number. So, the newest one is, by the time this comes out, I don't know what the newest one is going to be. But the series currently that I'm working on is called Twisted Gods, and that is kind of steampunk and fantasy rolled into a terrifying mech bundle. So, Well, there's not that many mechs, but they're giant robotic kaiju that are fought by people who fly around on fans. So it's kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender versus Pacific Rim. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. And if that didn't sell you on that, man, I should have thought of that sooner. Have a good one, folks. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
That tears it.